how did that make you feel, or what does this number mean to you, or there are numbers that have inherent meaning. I think in again going back to sports, there are numbers like 400 means something in baseball.
Welcome to the Data Nerd Podcast. I'm your host, Nisar Ahmed. Join me as we explore the inner data nerd inside all of us. Dive into the world of data alongside special guests who not only share their wealth of experience and knowledge, but also unveil what truly makes them data nerds. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a comment wherever you listen. And for all episodes, plus exclusive merch like the Data Nerd hat, head over to the datanerdpodcast.com. Growing up, I played hockey. It's a childhood thing. It's something I loved. And yeah, fine, I'm not at the same level I was when I was younger, but it's still something about lacing up the skates and hitting the ice and gliding on the ice that just feels, I don't know, therapeutic to some extent.
Well, especially the skating, like there's a freedom once you're out on the ice and just like it's fluid, it's movement,
Yes.
and there's the satisfaction, like the sounds, like and the feeling when
Yes.
like there's a good all of it feels like we talk about achieving a flow state. Like that is what hockey is all about. It is flow when it is done well. And even if you just achieve a few moments of that, I feel like this is why people get hooked on golf, is because if you have like 3 shots in a round that feel good, you're like chasing that feeling for the other
Yes.
114 shots that you spend on that day.
Yes. The
So,
other thing is, don't get me wrong, skating is one of the hardest things you can do. Okay, like as a skill set, right? And add to that the physical aspect, that stick handling, whatnot. But if I were to compare skating to running, at a certain age, I'd rather skate than run.
oh yeah. Yeah, I've used up, I don't know, enough of my knees to agree with you.
Exactly. And the skating, yes, it's very tiring, but
Mhm.
sometimes you can glide here and there without
Yeah.
people noticing, you know?
Yeah. I so you're now like you're not playing goaltender anymore. You're skating.
No, I tried it, okay?
Uh-huh.
Because I played goalie growing up. I bought not new goalie equipment. I went on Facebook Marketplace. I bought
Uh-huh.
used stuff. I didn't want to
Right.
invest
Of course.
into the equipment because it's cost a lot before trying it out again because it's been some time. It's so much harder than I remember, and maybe it's the age. I was like, I cannot go up and down like I used to. I
Oh
thought it was
yeah.
easy
Yeah.
when I was younger. It's not.
Oh boy, yeah, that happened for me like in a flash. Like because there's a lot of like quick get up, get back into ready position in anything where you're the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
But yeah, suddenly it went away. I'm like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
like you have to make the dad noises just getting back up. Like I'm in the middle of athletic competition. I can't be like getting out of a Barca lounger and trying to get back on my feet and save the next shot.
It's true. But you know what I liked about playing goalie? And you tell me if this is why you play goalie. You have so much control of the game. A lot depends on the way you play, for good or bad. Good, you're gonna win the game because of how good you play. Sometimes you may lose, but sometimes I like having that impact on the game as a goalie.
For me, it was a number of things. When I was 11, it was I don't want to run. I want to just be in the net. And then for the next 35 years, it was I like having the pressure of it. I like having people relying on me to do the things that they don't really want to do. And I liked being able to take control of the match and be able to communicate because you're the only one who can see what's going on clearly because you're more
Mm,
stationary than everybody else. So it's
yes.
a real exercise in there was a goalie, soccer goalie for the England team, Peter Shilton, who had a quotation about how it was very much like being a good manager in business is you have to be able to see the threats and communicate them effectively and organize your team. And there was something to that that I really appreciated about taking that responsibility on. And there's satisfaction in me in stopping the other team from doing what they were trying to do just as much as there is in scoring a goal, because you hype up your whole team when you do that. So
100%.
yeah,
So you kind of take a step back and you kind of see the whole picture, right? You're
yeah,
like when and you can analyze it. We're bringing it back to data here, okay? So you're
yeah.
analyzing the game, same and in a similar fashion, like if you're working in data, right? You have to kind of sometimes take a step back and look at the whole picture and see, what's happening so you can um not have control over, but manage it properly, right?
I think it's always important to bring it back to data. Is it's so easy for those of us who selected into this analytics field. We got into it because, for most of us, because we liked solving mysteries, we liked figuring out the answers to things, and we can get so in the weeds on what's in front of us and just keep diving deeper instead of remembering this is only a small part of everything that's going to be important for whatever we're looking at. And a lot of what we need in order to answer these questions doesn't exist in our data set or any data set. It exists in the world, in other people's minds. And it is, yeah, stepping back out of it is critical if you want to get to a thorough and meaningful, actionable answer that's more authentically representing what you are there to do.
Yeah, and this is where some people, you have a profession and you do your job properly, but sometimes what you do outside of your work and your personal time can have an impact on your on the way that or your productivity at work as well, right?
Mhm.
These team sports we're talking about, very rarely are you working by yourself. You're working in a team as well. You have to learn how to work with others towards a common goal. And growing up playing these team sports, that's what you learned from these. It's not just about having fun. You learn these lessons as well.
And it's the fluidity of sometimes you have to pick up somebody else. You have to learn how to do a little bit of what everybody else is doing, or at least understand what they're trying to do so you can support them when they are doing that. But every victory is, coaches will do this, is every victory is a team victory. At least the good coaches will say this. Every loss is a team loss, or it's an opportunity to learn something else. If they're picking out, well, you did well and the rest of you are garbage, they're probably either not a good coach or they're really keen on getting one person like in an Olympic development program or moving them
Yeah,
up, like that's, which is its own discussion that I don't
that
think we're going to have today.
no, yeah, yeah, and that happens. That sometimes happens with certain parents when they want their
Hmm.
kids to go up a certain levels. But at our age, when we play, we're way past that. That's not even
Hmm.
a discussion. Yes, at some point, maybe when I was 8 years old, I thought about making the NHL as a dream, not realizing that the chances of that ever happening,
Hmm.
um, I don't know. I might win the lottery, but that might those chances of winning the lottery might be greater than that. It's
Here's when
it's
I
so hard.
when I really learned it is when I was playing intramural street hockey in college, and I was the kids who ran it, and I say kids because we were all in college, but
Yeah,
these were men who were on the varsity ice hockey team. So these were D1 college athletes, and when like a team would forfeit, they would just like play around with the ball because it was street hockey, and they were unbelievably quick and agile. And I was like, oh, if this is the level of player who cannot sniff the NHL, then it really gives you an idea of how good you have to be a professional athlete. People
yeah.
don't truly understand it until they're right there involved in it.
It's so true. It's so true. Can you compare that to? Can you draw a similar parallel in a professional environment? Like, do you ever feel like you're not like you're working with people who are just much smarter than you, or is it different? Like, can you be in that situation?
There were certainly times early in my career when I felt like, oh, I'm definitely in the presence of greatness. And it was something about the way they talked, the way they understood a problem without having it needed to be explained to them a second time. It was the facility and flow that they were able to communicate what they thought and with an easy confidence. And you just realize their brains are working on another level than mine. But I would
Yeah.
say that that is extraordinarily rare for how extraordinary it is. I don't think you see that too often. And the fact that I can only think of offhand one person and maybe a second, and I've been working for 30 plus years, tells you that you're not likely to run into that too many times in your professional career. And if this is the person to whom you are comparing yourself, you're going to be frustrated and disappointed a lot of the time because I don't think that's healthy for any of us to do. I think
Yeah.
that we are all, most of us are at least trying our best and we're trying to improve and we're trying to it feels much better to do something when you're good at it. And you talked about our outside interests sometimes bleed into our
Mhm.
professional interest, which stands to reason because we are whole people. The things that we like are things that are going to express themselves through what we choose to do both in and outside of work much of the time. It's very hard to divorce what you do during these certain hours of the day versus what you do the other hours of the day. No matter how much people tell you, oh, you should leave your work at work and your home is your home. Okay, great in theory, but I found it very hard to do that. It's just natural that you're drawn to certain things. When I was a young boy and I took the job aptitude test, when I was
Yeah.
9 years old, the things it told me that I was going to be good at or those things I would like are things I ended up doing.
Yeah.
And doing because they were fun. There was like told me I could be a computer programmer. Great. I ended up doing that for a while. Told me I could be a writer or an artist. Great. Did those things for a while too. And I still do a lot of these things just for fun in my free time because that's who we are. And
Was that the
fortunately,
results of your aptitude test? Art and science?
yeah,
Art
yeah,
and programming?
sort of famously I got six things. And
Yeah.
computer programmer, graphics programmer, editor, or sorry, writer, artist, and statistician and actuary, which I always say is everybody's dream when they're 9 years old to grow up to be an actuary. Like those are the things that I got when I was in fourth grade.
No,
And
but
yeah, ended up doing a lot of those things.
that's interesting because now you wrote this book or co-authored this book,
Mhm.
storytelling with data before and after, which you talked about those skill sets. Those
Right.
all are part of this book, are they not?
Yeah, absolutely. Because being a data storyteller at storytelling with data sounds kind of silly when you say it like
Yeah.
that in a row. But it it's only because when I was 9 years old in the 80s, they didn't have a word for this. We didn't know that this
Yeah.
was a thing that was going to be necessary. We knew about writing, certainly. We knew about statistics. We knew
Mm.
about computer programming. We didn't know that someday there was going to come a time
They're gonna come
when you're going to
together.
want to, yeah, put all these things
Yeah.
together. And this was
Yeah.
going to be something that was going to be necessary in a professional capacity. So it was lucky for me that I got into this data visualization world. I was super into maps and just helping people understand things visually because I always understood things better when I saw it drawn out as well as told to me. If I could see a
Yes.
diagram or a graph or something. And so I was trying to, in the roles that I had, use that to help make other people able to understand the things that I was trying to share with them.
So
But
my aptitude test was
yeah,
was also I had art and then I have had the math and analytics. And for me, I didn't pursue art because at that time it wasn't like business intelligence wasn't a thing at that time.
hmm, right.
So I went into data, but then once I got into like Tableau, I was like, oh, I can put it together. And so that,
Yeah.
that's why I fell in love with this, business intelligence, storytelling, data visualization.
Yeah, if I had to guess, now I don't know you personally, but if I had to guess, I think there's a
Mm,
high probability that maybe you had maps on your wall as a kid, or that you had a globe or something that was visual. Because when you get into this idea of visualizing data, that's where it sort of comes from, is we are mapping data in a visual space, or we're trying to take something abstract and make it feel more real. Because when we try to tell stories to people, I mean, we've always told stories to people, like this is how
yeah.
human beings are, this is how we communicate, this is how we form bonds with one another. But then I couldn't tell you a decade, but when we started to get more like numeric data into our lives and it became more available, and then it became a necessity, and then we still had to figure out, well, in business, you still have to talk to one another and you still have to share information, but now we've got all this data. So then we had to figure out what are good ways to show that. And I think most of us started with data tables.
Yeah.
We realized, well, that's super boring. I mean, it's precise and all, but like, I don't want to
Yeah.
read data tables all day. And my condolences to those of you who still do have to read data tables all day. I know that is something that does come up in some
Yeah.
different industries, but yeah, then people figured out, oh, well, I could have a draftsman. I could have somebody learn mechanical drawing and I could make graphs. And then somebody invented the overhead projector and we could put slides on there and we could grab, the technology and the ability to visualize things just developed over time. And I'm glad that we're in a time when it became easier and easier to visualize stuff.
Yeah. When do you think storytelling became a thing when it comes to data? I'm not talking about storytelling's always been around, movies, books, whatnot, but in the data space, when did that really start?
Well, I think I'm not a historian of
Yeah.
it. I know of the people in the field. I mean,
Yeah.
RJ Andrews knows so much more about this
Mm.
than I do. But I think back to the first books that I mean, like many people my age, there was the Tufte books were the first books that I read. That was
Yes.
more about visualizing data, but it was also in the context of I have a story I want to tell you. Here's how the story could have been told more clearly if we had visualized the data differently. And when I was getting really into this, it was in the probably 2010, 2011. And actually, it was Storytelling with Data was one of the first blogs that I remember reading because I was into all that kind of stuff. And then getting involved in Tableau sort of around 2014 or so and getting able
Mm.
to play with that stuff. And it was when I would say it was when the two Andys, when Kriebel and Cotgreave
Yeah.
started doing Makeover Monday back
Yeah.
in whatever year that was, 16
Mm.
maybe, 16 or 17, when I really got into using this BI tool, but to tell a story, which was kind of not what it was meant for. It's wrestling this tool that was not built for storytelling, but I couldn't look at a data set and figure out what to do with it without getting to the heart of what it was trying to tell us in the first place. It's just this goes back to the wanting to solve the mystery problem
Yeah.
of I think that from business, yes, it was happening in that time, but not as frequently as it has come to be. I think it is much more prevalent now than it was 10 or 15 years ago. But I certainly wasn't aware of it in the 2000s. I was aware of people talking about how to make your presentations better, but
Yes.
not about how you incorporate data into it to turn all of that into a cohesive and coherent storytelling
Yeah.
package.
I think it's an evolution.
Yeah.
And now data storytelling is much more prevalent and um, so much content out there with storytelling. But why is it important? I have some philosophies on it. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Let me share mine, and
Yeah.
you tell me if you agree. I think what storytelling does with storytelling with data, particularly, is um, it makes it memorable, and you attach some emotion to it, so people remember how stories make you feel. And if I were to just throw out numbers to you, you probably won't remember it. But if you remember the feeling associated with it, then it makes it more memorable. And then ultimately, that's what will stick and will drive action.
Yeah,
And
that's for sure.
that's my take on it.
I think that is absolutely true. I think that there's even more to like getting people engaged with what you're saying and, using the like dramatic tension to your advantage when you're communicating because people if there's no tension to what you're saying with them, people get bored immediately. And say
Yes.
like this is not a story. I ran out of apples. I went to the grocery store. They had apples. I brought more apples home. Like
So you're
this.
saying me throwing out five random numbers is not exciting? Is not memorable?
uh, No, sometimes it depends on what the number is. Now
Yeah.
you have to be careful about what number you throw out, or uh, tweens will start like running up and down the hall screaming it at you.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So yes, sometimes, but generally speaking, no, people aren't going to be engaged by a certain number. But yes, they're engaged in how does that make you feel, or what does this number mean to you, or there are numbers that have inherent meaning. I think in again going back to sports, there are numbers like 400 means something in baseball. Um,
Well,
you know,
okay. I remember those. Okay, well, let's go back to sports. I used to
yeah.
open the newspaper and read the statistics at
Uh-huh.
the box scores, the leaders,
Uh-huh.
baseball leaders, batting averages, and all of that,
Mhm.
and standings to the point where you could probably give me a year and we could go back 20 years and I can tell you who was the leading scorer or who had the most points that year. How
Mhm.
do I remember that? What is it about?
Right.
It's not the number. What's associated with the number are the memories, are the stories that were developed as you're watching the games.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So that's why the number has meaning to you, is because you can place it in a time, or it's the whole season or the experience that you had. You were following, I'm going to guess the Blue Jays for
Well,
a
I was
full
an
year.
Expos fan because I grew up in
Oh,
Montreal Expos, but they're no longer in existence. So I switched to the Blue Jays. I always liked the Blue Jays too, but uh, I'm a native Montrealer.
and I grew up, or didn't, I grew up Red Sox, but I took your Expos because I was in the DC area for many years and became a Nationals fan. So I have all of the
I
franchise
have
records.
I don't know. I'm bittersweet about that. I don't consider them the Expos anymore because they took our team. But but yeah, it's the stories, right?
Mhm.
It's That's what makes it memorable.
So as we're talking about this again, as I know you identify as an introvert, I often did as well. And
Yeah.
introverts don't usually like to think out loud. But as we're talking, this is something that does occur to me, that this is why people can get engaged in sport, is because in watching sport, because there are narratives to it, because there are stories. And we tie numbers into them, and the numbers are part of the story. So that's why those numbers do gain those meanings to us, as you said. Like, it's not a number just for being a number. It's a number that is representative of a way that we felt about something or a memory that we had.
Yeah.
And when we are talking about in a business context, the number has to make us feel something, or there has to be a story that is supported by the numbers that we have. Because as data analysts, we are looking at the numbers and we're trying to see, does this make sense? How does this explain the real world? Because the numbers are all just an abstraction of what the real world actually is. And I think it is important to remember that when we are all looking at numbers on a regular basis, is that these aren't just numbers for numbers' sake. Most numbers, in some way or another, represent human beings, some aspect of their lives, whether it is a person or something that might affect a person. And it is easy to lose sight of that when you are neck deep in data all of the time. And that's why you say step out of something. And that's why
Yes.
it's important to step out of
Step out.
something so
Yeah.
that you can honor what the data actually is as you're analyzing it.
And I think part of that stepping out is to then look at or evaluate who your audience is. Because based on the audience, you're going to try to connect with them on what's important to them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you don't know who your audience is, then you're taking a real shot in the dark, whether that communicate. I mean, imagine going to a movie theater and you don't know what movie is playing, and then you walk in, and you're like, what are the chances that you're going to like the movie? Because like
Yeah.
every movie is designed for a specific audience, but I mean, might not be you, you know?
Yeah.
So,
No, that's true. Um, so I'm sure you remember Blockbuster, no
of
longer in
course.
existence, right? That now what do you do? You go to Netflix and you select from there. What's the difference between Blockbuster and Netflix? Um, I mean, obviously growing up, I like Blockbuster, and as a child, I have some experiences there that are positive, and I still have those core memories. But when I think back to it, right, comparing that physical store in
Mhm.
Blockbuster compared to Netflix, Netflix customizes what I want to see based on my viewing patterns and
Mhm.
recommends things. Blockbuster did not do that.
Right.
Everyone was treated the same way, and so you kind of had to go and find it yourself.
Right. So if Blockbuster has 500 titles in it and
Yeah.
Netflix has 50,000 titles, and I'm just taking wild swings in the dark here.
Yeah.
Of those 500 titles, not all of them are for you, but there's a huge barrier to entry to get a movie into Blockbuster because it was so hard to do that.
Yeah.
So even if it wasn't for you, it was probably good. Now, with the 50,000 model, there's a lot that maybe is for you, but it doesn't mean that there's 100 times as many good things just because it's available on Netflix. So you see a lot of things that the
Yeah.
algorithm thinks you'll like, but they aren't that good. So it's frustrating because you can never find the good thing that you like, which you could at Blockbuster, even though there weren't that many of them.
So are you saying that you when you went to Blockbuster, you were in and out in 5 minutes?
No, because if you didn't go soon enough, then there would be all of those empty, cases on the
That's
wall, and
true.
you just
That's true.
lament like, why did we go to the grocery store? Why did we go to Stop and Shop and get the popcorn first? Why didn't we go to Blockbuster first?
Although Blockbuster did have the top 10, right?
Yeah,
They had the top 10 movies right now, and those were the ones they had more copies of, but
yeah.
oftentimes they were the ones that were out.
Right. And they had the analog Netflix model of they just had people in the store working there who recommended to you, oh, you'll probably like this because these are good
Yeah.
movies.
Yeah. 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 No, but like now you think about it, right? We let's bring it back to data.
This is a challenge. Like we are the
Oh,
tangent team today. Like we are
yeah.
going off on
No, I mean, this is interesting. I've never thought of it this way. But as we're talking, I'm like, there's a lot of parallels you can draw here.
Mhm.
All right. If you're working with data and you're operating in this blockbuster framework, it's hit or miss, really, depending on who's coming in. And maybe what they want to see is not there because the movie's gone,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Or it's not what they're looking for. The
Yeah. So
the red the Netflix model will give you what you need because I know that this is typically what you'd want to see or what's important for you.
yeah, it is a if the supply is not limited, which is part of the Netflix model, at least nowadays, because it's not the Quickster model. Remember Quickster when they were going to separate out the streaming versus the platters, and that was going to
Yes,
be the
yes,
name.
yeah. Yeah.
um, then sure, they can serve it to you however you want. But again, like it doesn't mean that it means more. It doesn't mean better, which is something that I've been
Mhm.
thinking about a little bit uh,
How
lately too. Is
how do you make it better?
well, it's hard to say. Like if it's something like so in this model, like
Mm,
if we're talking about like a creative endeavor, it's hard to say like, well, just do more of it and that will make it better because there is so much serendipity to whether something is good. It's experience, it's hard work, it is a little bit of creative genius, and it is also good fortune to make something that is sort of universally acclaimed as a good artistic effort. But when we bring it back to data and analytics, it's not always going to be necessary to have all of those different pieces. So if you're talking about your endeavor, like the movie version of your endeavor is finding like useful insights in or becoming the auteur at finding you know interesting things in your data, or being able to put things together or find connections that other people didn't see. I'm not sure how to make that connection just on the fly as I'm talking, but there is the parallel I could see is that there's the more you work in the creative field, the more you understand, I think, the more your expertise comes to bear on, well, this idea will work, this idea won't work. Here's how you technically achieve this. Here's how you don't. And there's always benefits to lived experience, even
mm.
in data analytics in any field that I think you can bring to bear on a problem. So, um, but you also need the flash of insight or the new connections, the new ideas, which is why it's always nice to work in a team or to have
Yeah.
mentors or to have partners or have trusted colleagues instead of having just the same people or you trying to do everything on your own, because that's, I think, truly how creative work happens is you get a lot of people who are very good at what they do working together, achieving that flow state we were talking about before, which is something that you can also do in a professional environment, when you have the opportunity and when everybody isn't stretched really thin and then doesn't have the time to collaborate, and it's just like, well, I just got to get this done and get it out the door.
Yeah. So teamwork is important. It's good to get opinions of others, right?
Mhm.
Which kind of brings me along to this next path in our evolution of data storytelling. And when we're talking about technology, we're getting
Mhm.
into the AI age now, right?
Mhm.
AI is, what everyone's talking about, everyone's using and everyone's promoting.
Yeah.
Is that going to help us when it comes to in the in respect to data storytelling? And what's your experience there with AI?
Uh, well, first of all, I am notoriously bad at predicting the future.
Mm,
Um, one of my one of my first big Tableau projects was about predicting the outcome of the 2016 U.S. election. So you can imagine how that went. Uh,
but even the polls were wrong though.
well, that's what it was based on. It was me
Yeah.
and a colleague of mine and he was doing a lot of the modeling, and I was doing the rendering it in Tableau. So, like, just again, another tangent here. That is something that is hard to reconcile. If you're doing something that you think is good work in and of itself, except what it is representing to the audience is incorrect and bad, is it good work? Like, are you doing something technically well? Like, I'm building something that is easy to interact with. It's visually appealing. It is robust. Like, this tool that I've built works, except that what you can do with it is get wrong answers. And that's hard to
Well,
reconcile.
well, you can't be 100% correct all the time.
No, but this is something that was, I would say, it was relatively early in what you would consider, or what I would consider, my public career. And
Mm,
so it was hard to deal with that. It's something you're very proud of that ends up being, by some accounts, like extremely bad, or,
yeah.
or at least a failure. That's difficult.
But
But
you weren't alone in that, right? A lot of
oh
people
no,
were wrong. Yeah.
oh no. No, I just had a lot of hubris about it going into
Yes.
it. So again,
Naturally.
wasn't alone in that either.
Yes, yes.
Uh,
So now talk to me about AI, right?
yeah, yeah.
So how is this going to help us?
Well, I think I found a good transition is I think AI has a lot of hubris also in
Yes,
thinking
it
that it
does.
can do a lot of things,
Mm,
except that it is rarely apologetic about it unless you demand that it be apologetic about it. So I still think that um, I think AI has a long way to go if it is going to help us in the storytelling side of things. I think there's so much that you need to consider that is outside of any existing data set if you were going to tell a good story. This comes back to a little bit of what we were talking about before is you have to know your audience, you have to know like the people involved, you have to know what they tend to react to. I know you talked uh, recently with Salma Sultana, and you were talking a
yeah.
lot about audience there, and you have to know, well, like this person reacts to too much data, like doesn't want numbers, this person doesn't want graphs, this person like reacts to positive things, this person reacts to the fear of failure. Like there's so much of this stuff that is going to be difficult to incorporate into models, and certainly models that have already been trained and so don't know these people. Like how are they going to tell you a story that's going to be
Well,
effective? So there's something that again here, second shout out to Andy Cockreeve in the last 20 minutes is he was talking about a scientific paper that he read recently that had to do with like four tests for can AI do things, for analysts, and like the four different sort of things that utterances is what the authors of the paper called it. There's Matt Hyun Hung and Anna Crison were the authors of this paper.
mm,
Like four utterances that analysts might have. It's like simple questions about the data, um, editing operations, which is like take this out of the chart or add this into your view. Elaborations, which are like asking questions about why. Why might this be happening, or what else might we do to make this visualization or this story better? And then very specific requests like, I want you to make me a slide that shows A, B, C, and D, and I want you to make it for this audience. And at least from what I take from him so far, is that AI currently can do about one out of four of these things well. So I feel like it is still a ways away. I'm also one of the least bullish people on AI that you'll meet. So take
mm,
that into consideration. But
mm.
I also do feel like it is, again, very much something that allows you to do more, but maybe doesn't allow you to do better. Like you could do more things fast. Maybe it's more Netflix and I'm more Blockbuster. Maybe that's how it is.
And you prefer Blockbuster to Netflix?
I've never been somebody who has tried to do as much as possible. I've always tried to do as well as possible.
Well, okay. I had this discussion today with a coworker, okay, and we were talking about we're trying to like carve out, you know, what how we're going to use AI
Mhm.
with data reporting metrics and whatnot. Um, And what he was saying was maybe and he's a he's experienced. Okay, he has experience. He goes, maybe I'm biased, but AI can do this, but it can't do that because I know what that should be, and I have the experience, and I know the result. And if it's not going to give me that, I'm not going to trust it. I'm like, listen, you're not biased. You have experience, and if AI is not going to give you a better result, why would you use it if you can do it better yourself?
Mhm.
And so to me, I feel that AI is only as good as what you feed it.
Mhm.
It's a tool that may help you, and maybe it may give you ideas that you may not have thought of, maybe brainstorm things, and but there's still that human element. You still need to to have an idea of how to do things in order for you to leverage the content that's being produced in AI and deem it worthy or not.
I'm going to ask you a question that's going to sound like a non sequitur, but isn't.
Okay.
Are you familiar with the Twilight Zone as a show?
Somewhat.
Okay.
I haven't watched it though. No.
Okay. There is an episode of The Twilight Zone called Button Button. I'll give it to you very quickly.
Mhm.
Is that a couple that is close to poverty and is sort of falling into poverty has a box appear on their doorstep that has a button in it. And then later on that day, a man shows up and says, if you press this button, you'll get $200,000 and somebody you don't even know is going to die. And then he walks away. And so then
Mm.
it ends up they're having this big discussion about, well, one spouse wants to press the button, one of them doesn't. They like open up the box, there's nothing in it, there's no mechanism. So they're just like obsessing about it. And finally they decide to press the button. And then later on, the man comes back and gives them $200,000 and takes the box away from them and says, thank you very much. I'm going to go give this box to somebody else you don't even know. So, um, premise there, of
Mm.
course, how I'm turning this into this is the temptation of AI is that it is tempting to be able to push your button and essentially get $200,000, let's say $1 million just for inflation, because this came out in the 80s.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, there's the hidden cost to it because who is dying because you're pressing this button? What are the negative implications that are invisible to us? Or what happens when somebody else presses the button and you are the hidden implication that they're unaware of? So, um,
So maybe what you have to do is evaluate the risk and if it's worth
yes,
taking that risk.
mhm, exactly. But at the same time, the risks are not fully knowable. I think there's just a lot of invisible cost that we're unaware of, or that we're somewhat aware of, or but it's tempting not to see the risk. And yes, people who have experience value experience. That is that is the nature of things. So to your point of your colleague of like, well, you have experience, you have wisdom. Obviously, you're going to think that your wisdom is more valuable than an AI tool. But
I, s-
um,
I saw a study on AI and they were evaluating who's going to benefit the most from AI.
mhm.
It's not the young people. It's the people who already have some experience and now can leverage AI to enhance what they already know because we've already gone like we have that experience without AI. We know what to look for. We know what's right and wrong, and we can get rid of the what do you call it, hallucinations, right?
Mhm.
Those won't don't like those won't get past us as easily as perhaps people who are inexperienced. And so the study said, I think they said Gen X is probably the generation that will benefit the most from AI.
Oh, well, we're the most cynical generation. I wonder if that's coming through.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that could be part of it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that. You bring up great points. So what you're saying is use AI, but use it with caution.
What I'm saying is that I think that we are in a time when companies specifically feel obliged to use AI, even if they're not quite sure how to use it or where to use it or what if there is a benefit to it specifically. But if you have uh, shareholders, then you are in a position where you are doing your company a disservice or you're doing your shareholders a disservice by not saying we are implementing AI. But it is still relatively early in this broad, widespread application of AI to know, is this? I mean, look, there have been many different waves of new technology that have come out and have been like, this is transformational. This is going to change everything about the way we do business. Some of them do a little bit, some of them don't do anything, and some of them are transformational.
Well, that happened when the internet came out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
internet has been transformational, but what happened? You had the .com boom and bust, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were so many. I remember watching the Super Bowl in the early 2000s, or probably was it when was it? It was like late 90s, early 2000s. Every single ad in the Super Bowl was a .com ad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what happened? Like 90% of them went away, 10% stayed, and the ones that stayed, you know, they're fine. The internet is still relevant today, and it has changed and shaped the way we've done things, or changed the way we've done things. Um, I'm kind of seeing that with AI now too, right? Everyone is like, let's get into AI. All these projects and initiatives starting, and we don't quite know how to measure the productivity or impact of them yet.
And there, to me, the other aspect of it is the economics of it, and not the economics of is this going to take our jobs? The economics of what are the actual costs of running compute on all of these things that we
Oh
are
yeah,
doing, you know?
yeah,
Um, and I don't know how much of that is, I mean, it's clearly not sustainable at the current costs that we are incurring as users of these systems. But when it is this is kind of like the 2010s model of just grow your customer base and we'll figure out how to make money later, except this is doing it at an enormous scale. So
yeah,
is this actually possible to sustain at any level where a business is going to be able to pay for it at the actual cost of what we are getting used to using AI at? Or does it actually become cheaper to throw human beings at these problems? Like there is possibly a turnaround where the AI becomes so expensive in real cost that that's not the effective solution, or it's reserved for
yeah.
very, very challenging things and not, can you write this email for me really quickly?
Yeah. I mean that's. I mean, yeah, fine. It's good to use it to write emails quickly, but is that really the the use case of for AI? Is like just to write your emails better?
Right. Or is that the use case that's like, well, at least I know it's not going to hallucinate. Like at least that's what I can rely on it to do. But like that's not really transformational.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think when it comes to the costs, and I've heard that the open AI is not, they're operating at a loss. They're not profiting, right? It's
I mean,
like,
I think that barely, I mean, a loss is doing a lot of work in that sentence. I think they're burning a tremendous amount of money. Um, Much more than what their ARR is. But I don't think this is why I brought you here today.
no, yes. Yeah, we're going off in a bit of a tangent, right? But let's bring it back to data storytelling, right? And AI. So I guess I don't know, you're in the middle somewhere. You're not like completely gung ho on, let's use AI, but you're also not saying don't use it. You're like, you know, um,
I, I don't use it a lot. Um, but that's because again, I know how to do a number of things, and as somebody who, um, I also write for a living, I speak
Yeah.
for a living. So like these sorts of things are meaningful to me, that they are human created and that they are human, focused and human centered. So I'm not going to use AI tools to do the things that I feel like are core to the human experience. If there are other things that are, as I said, simply, menial tasks that you can, accelerate. I mean, these are the sort of things we would have done, things that you might have like written code to do in Python,
Yeah.
a few years ago. Like I don't have a ton of problem with that, but
Yeah. No, Mike, this has been great, great, great conversation. I actually, to be honest, I wasn't quite sure where this conversation would lead, but
yeah,
you know, I, it's opened my like as I'm having this conversation, I've learned a few things and I've drawn a lot of like parallels to my, how we can compare this to certain experiences that we've had in our personal lives or in our uh from you know growing up and personal
mhm,
experiences as well.
right. And maybe that sort of thing is one of the arguments for human intelligence is these serendipitous conversations or these connections that can be made or things that you didn't expect but make you think about one's place in the world or what it means to do this work or how you learned to do this or what made you go to a certain area. Like all of this stuff is not easy to generate from prompt engineering. It can give you a lot of ideas, but not the same way that talking with people and learning about them and finding connections and making new connections can be. And I'm glad that we're making new connections here today.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I do this podcast, is to make connections like this. And so, um, you know, I don't know. I know AI does podcasts as well, but I have not.
Sure.
I don't think. I don't know. Maybe I haven't heard enough of them. They don't do it for me the same as the human podcasts.
Yeah, I haven't. There's an infinite number of things we can spend our free time doing. That is not one I've chosen to spend time doing.
Yeah, it's true. Uh, and this is a little bit off topic, but I heard like one of the number or the top one of the Billboard top songs out now is an AI artist. So,
Great.
yeah, great. You sound so enthusiastic about that.
Well, look, this is they released a new Beatles song not that long ago where it was
Yeah.
from one kind of, dirty, ropey master track and they, modified it and added more stuff into it. It's like, is it a Beatles song? Like, not
Yeah.
really, kind of. And this goes back into, so we're cycling back into again the Netflixing of like, here's a bunch of stuff that's similar to what you like. It might not be as good, but we know you like the rhythms of this. We know you like this specific micro genre of film. We know you like this specific music type where it's, it has this instrumentation and it lasts 3 minutes and 22 seconds and it has a female vocalist and it has a marimba in it. So therefore, you'll probably like this song. So let's generate a whole bunch of them and you can fill your
Yeah.
we'll suggest to you the next song and it'll be very similar to that and that's not how I want to I want the tattooed guy in the record shop to recommend something to me rather than my
So
own.
so that's why when you're going in Blockbuster, you know where to go in the store because that's what you like and you know
That's
what you like, whereas the Netflix model's telling you what what it thinks you like.
um sort of, but it also has to do with who do you trust or what do you trust, and that obviously that's a big thing now
Yeah.
in an AI era.
Yeah.
And I was at the Outlier conference earlier this year, and that was one of the topics of discussion. And there were
Yeah.
a few people on the panel. I am in my 50s, so I have a terrible memory now. But what I do remember is the moderator asking the people on the panel, "What will make you trust something that you see, in the media, or trust a data journalism that you see?"
Mhm.
And I think two of the people said if I know the person who has created it. Therefore, like if I know their body of work and they have,
Hmm.
credibility with me. And the third person said, well, if I can see the methodology, if they're transparent about what they did, where they got their data from, all of that, how it all worked, then I'm more likely to trust it. So to me, all of those answers boil down to if I know the human being and the way they did it, then they have credibility, which is very hard to build and very easy to lose. So
Yeah.
if I go into the Blockbuster and I go to, these are Jeff's picks. Well, if I've done 5 Jeff's picks over the last 2 years and 4 of the 5 have worked out, well, that's credibility to me. Whereas if Netflix recommends me, I don't know why Netflix is catching strays here, but like it's just the generic
I
like
have Netflix
yeah, me
subscription.
too.
I
Me
do
too.
like watching
Yeah,
Netflix.
yeah. I've been watching Netflix all week. But um, if it recommends 50 things to me and none of them look good, like that's not credibility, even though they think, well, this is the genre you like. Why aren't you clicking on these? So anyway, um, it
Yeah.
goes back to yes, I think we are going to still trust the humans that we are aware of, the historical record of have we built up credibility? Have we built up you know, have we earned the trust that we're asking of people? And are we being transparent with that? And I think it is incumbent on us as data analysts not to relinquish that easily and
Yeah.
to continue to make sure that we are vetting everything that we are doing, even with the assistance of other technologies, because it's never going to be the technology that's going to get blamed for things. We are,
Yeah.
because it's always our name and our reputation on the line.
Yeah. Well said. So, tell us about your book, how people can get it, and let us know how we can connect with you.
Sure. Storytelling with data before and after. The subtitle is Practical Makeovers for Powerful Data Stories, which is what we were putatively talking about today, although we talked about a lot of
We
things.
thought, yeah.
One of the reasons why we wrote the book is because Cole Nussbaumer Knaflic, who is the founder of Storytelling with Data, has written a number of books in the past, giving people the foundations of how to create better data visualizations, better data communications. But what we realized is that when you are trying to do this in practice, sometimes you are dealing with a lot of different challenges, obstacles, motivations. And we wanted to show people how, when we work with clients, how we think through the different challenges so that we can apply all or some of the tools in your toolkit, sort of like the guide for if you want to do this in the real world. Here are 20 examples of how we did this with our clients. And it is done in the before and after is because it's a makeover. So we start with a before image or a before visual. We talk about what we were trying to achieve, what were the specific things that we were trying to do, and we go step by step through our thought process and how we would transform the visual. So everybody likes a makeover. It's fun to watch something go from maybe disordered to neat and tidy, or aesthetically more and more pleasing. But that's not always what we're trying to do. Sometimes it's how do we get something that's already visually appealing into something else that is also visually appealing, but also achieves the intended goal more effectively. Because that sometimes gets lost by the wayside when we think about making things over. Like you can make it pretty, but does it actually achieve its intended goal? So that book is available, Storytelling with Data Before and After, available anywhere. You can get books from your favorite and your least favorite booksellers. It's paperback, Kindle version, audiobook that the three of us, Cole, myself, and my other co-author, Alex Velez, we all read our chapters. So I got to be a voice actor, I guess,
Yes, I
technically.
saw you. I saw that on one of your LinkedIn posts.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
And you can find me on, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, Mike Cisneros, Vizneros. Back when it was the height of fashion to put Viz in your username, that was the handle I picked for myself. Yeah, Mike Cisneros
Wait,
on all
that's not
those.
in fashion anymore?
It might still be in fashion, but back when I created my Twitter handle, may it rest in peace. Yeah, back in 2012-ish. Yeah, it was the height of cool to figure out how
Yeah.
to fit Viz in there.
Yeah. And it's not called Twitter anymore either.
Well, Twitter is gone,
Yes.
so rest in
Uh,
peace, Twitter.
Yeah. Great. So I'll put the links out on in the show notes so people can connect with you and purchase the book as well.
Yeah.
This has been great conversation, Mike. I know that you are fairly active on LinkedIn as well. So, if you want to get in touch and keep the conversation going, I'm sure you would welcome that as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you for having me. It was a great conversation. I'm glad I got to spend some time getting to know you as well. So thanks for having me again.
If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe and leave a rating or review. It really helps more data nerds discover the show. You can find all episodes, plus exclusive merch like the Data Nerd hat, and more at thedatanerdpodcast.com. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and embrace your inner data nerd.